Hello, everybody. How are you? Thank you all for being with us tonight. We're going to get this kind of a ceremony, ritual on the road, this kind of collective healing space that we've kind of came together collectively as a community to create. I want to thank you all for being here and finding this important enough to do with your Thursday night. And we want to be humble enough to know that it's not for us that we're all here, or at least the poets, meaning us, but actually we're here for ourselves as the audience, and we're here to kind of look for some healing and even some answers, if you will, in the midst of lots of uncertainty and kind of a little bit of chaos over the last couple months in our city. And so my name's Hakeem Bellamy. I'm going to be your host for tonight. I'm going to be hanging out with you guys. I want to give a nod to really the kind of brainchild, the person who kind of brought me to the table and said, hey, we really should get the community together and share some words and some ideas and some hope in light of all of the kind of recent violence that has happened in our city and in the world. The guy that kind of got me activated and mobilized, Bill Nevins, who's my partner in crime on creating this. I want to thank Richard Malcolm, who's up in the booth shining these projections out here. And you also, if you go with us to the after poetry, you'll hear him later at Draft Station with Los Usual Suspects from Richard. You guys can clap for Richard. He was instrumental in continuing to help us organize this and move this forward. And of course, last but not least, we want to give thanks to the City of Albuquerque and the South Broadway Cultural Center for allowing us to have this space, for seeing it fit and important enough for us to have this space and to offer this space up to the community tonight. And we have Mark, who's actually making us sound really good up there, and with mic and lights, so the poets can see themselves, their words, and each other. And so Resolana Luz, Light from Darkness, is a program. If you don't have this is sitting right out front. You should grab one of these because this will let you know what the lineup is for the evening, especially if you're a poet reading. You should have one of these so you know when you're on deck. But it says, Resolana Luz, Light from Darkness, a program of poetry, music, and video presented in response to recent violent deaths, troubles, and losses in our community and in our world, presented in hope of healing and peace. And so that's why we're here. And as we said, it's the poets, when we kind of gathered before we started today and kind of got like the lay of the land, is that, poets come together for many reasons very often. A lot of times it's just for the love of poetry. But for tonight, we've come together to kind of honor these words, which is our process of healing that we're willing to share with you. We're willing to open it up and share with you because usually people's process of healing is very private. So we're here to honor the words, and we're here to honor the people that we lost. And some of us are thinking about the more high-profile losses that have happened in our city, and some of us are thinking of our own personal losses that have happened in our own families today. And so we just want to welcome you to help us hold that space tonight. And so without further ado, we're going to kick it off with our first poet. We're really fortunate to have our first poet here. She was a late addition, but yet an obvious addition once we realized that she has more books published than me. She has actually 2 books published, and she's only 16 years old, right? And so we want to start with Ludella, and we're going to let her tell a little bit about her story that she's bringing here today. So make some noise for Ludella Awad.
My name is Ludella Awad, and I'm 16 years old. I'm from Albuquerque School of Excellence, and my family's from Syria. Tonight I will read from my book of poems, Sad Piano Music in Syria, which is dedicated to the people of Syria who are suffering from the civil war and the refugee crisis, and the humanity. The story of the innocents. Today's story of Syria begins with the chemical weapons which blew up the sky in flames and poisoned the fruits that fell to the ground. Like the innocent people, explosions that turned the sky black and the ground ashy, blew everything up in seconds. The air turned into gas. Innocents blamed or sentenced to prison, or the smell of jasmine flowers used to fill the air with perfume. Now there's just the smell of bodies everywhere. People are tortured, their veins are cut. There are many ghost towns left in Syria, where no one is left among the crumbled buildings. The memories are crying about the history in Syria, about Damascus, the oldest city in Syria, and the stones of history in Palmyra blown up. People's houses are gone. Now there are just camps. Freedom is punished with torture. There is hunger in children's eyes, frowns on people's faces. The future of Syria and the children is now dead. People are standing on graves, trying to keep their memories. The photos of their loved ones are ripped up on the ashy ground. People's lungs are burned up, not trying to find air to breathe. The sad, loud piano music goes on for 4 years. 4 years have passed. The sad songs of war-torn people touch their skins to feel their bodies, to feel if they're alive. There's just darkness, no sunlight, just cold. People wear the old torn black clothes of death. The death song carries the sound of screeches. The people are riding with their own blood. People have no air to breathe. People are wondering if it's the end of the world. Children have had their hearts crushed. Schools are ruined. Children sit on floors to get their education and their future. The people live in pain, writing their stories in blood. Their hands are covered with red scars and memories of their sad stories. And that one's called the story of the innocents in Syria. My eyes on the American flag. I am the girl holding my writing notebook with freedom. Born in the land of America, catching my air that's American. Standing, sharing my stories to the world, breathing free. Writing free. I am an American coming from the other side of a war-torn country where my family struggles. I am writing, having freedom of speech, wishing girls of Syria could have the same thing. Wishing Syria could have their freedom. Their freedom hides in secret. They are buried behind everything. I'm the girl who was born with the American flag in her eyes. To be proud who I am today. I am the girl born in the land which has justice and liberty for all. I am the girl living the American dream. Thank you.
Time for Ludella Awad, please. When we put together the press release, multiple versions of the press release, I hope it's okay if I share this, Bill. We went through lots of iterations, and we made lots of changes in order to be respectful of the people we were trying to honor. And when Bill kind of set out the initial language for this, the idea was that we would honor recent deaths locally, as well as the Beirut bombings first, because they happened first, the Paris bombings that happened after that, and then ultimately we added what happened in Colorado to that as well, at the Planned Parenthood there, and initially based around the two very high-profile deaths that happened here of a 4-year-old young girl in a road rage incident, and then Officer Daniel Webster's. And we wanted to respect the families. Thank you, Richard, for having foresight. Richard actually works in the healthcare industry and was like, hey, there's actually protocol for grieving families as much as you want to help. It's how you help that actually matters. And so we wanted to kind of put all of that into this event. Like, this is a collective kind of processing of all that. And then, of course, what another high-profile thing that was happening in the news is governors and the Congress trying to figure out how we clean up the mess that we kind of started in Syria and with Syrian refugees. And it was really a pleasure to add Ludella to this lineup because she's not only 16, but she's also a Syrian American. So thank you, Ludella, for sharing your story with us. So I'm next. Cue me up, Richard. You might be able to read that. It's blurry. It's okay. That's what I have my trusty smartphone for. Before I share the poem that I wrote for this evening, I wanted to fill out the rest of my 5 minutes, because the poem's not that long, with 2 excerpts that I wrote. One I wrote after I got the news about Lily Garcia's death. I was driving home from work that night and kind of wondering why there was so much traffic before I realized what happened and why they had closed down the highway. And so I wrote comments on my social media, and I thought that that might be appropriate to bring, because those were my immediate visceral feelings and responses to that tragedy. And then later, because I'm a contractor with the city, I was able to, for the first time, I'd never been to a officer's going home ceremony before, and I had the opportunity to attend the going home ceremony for Officer Daniel Webster, and the pageantry alone will get you choked up, and so these are just my kind of feelings about those things at that time. So this was in response to the CBS Evening News article when I realized why I couldn't get to my child. October 21st. The craziest thing happened yesterday morning. When I was turning onto my street after I dropped my son off at school, some impatient driver was honking at me to make my turn. I was concentrated on driving, so my machismo didn't swell up in me until after I parked. As I walked to my house, I thought, how you gonna let that person punk you like that? Should have got out and walked up on their car with all 6'3", 200 pounds of my black frame, and I bet they would have changed their tune real quick. People are super brave behind a steering wheel or on a computer screen. And then that feeling fled, like drive-by testosterone often does. A runner, a yeller from windows, but never to your face, a hitter of horns and children and women. Then later that day, yesterday, as I rush to get my son from school after the news of this story breaks my heart, after I say to myself, I better go get my baby out of these streets to the safety of our home, because y'all are wildin', crazy, sick, mentally ill, no stigma. More a statement on the epidemic of violence, fear, guns, and ego in our country. Yesterday, a 4-year-old died over pride, or a place in line, or I got here first, or do you know who you're dealing with? And we do. We know precisely what we are dealing with. I fought it back in the back of my throat yesterday morning, but I still fought it. Yesterday, the craziest thing happened. And after Officer Daniel Webster's funeral on November 3rd, this going home ceremony, as we call it in the Black Southern Baptist tradition, for Officer Daniel Webster is humbling. The outpouring of support from all parts of the community, despite difference of opinion and politic, is both encouraging and overwhelming. I give thanks to Officer Webster for his service. I pray a prayer of comfort for his wife and 3 children. I pray that our community comes together like this to value each other before we have to leave this planet without knowing how appreciated we are, to honor every life lived in service to one another, whether line of duty or not. I pray we come together as a community in life as much as we do in death. I pray we don't fear one another, that we understand how similar we are in death and dying, that anything that isn't love is a tragic waste of time. I pray that we don't forget today after today. Thank you, Richard. Disbelief for Resolana Luz. When it gets hard to breathe on this side of that great white light, remember, where we are going, we won't need air. Just believe. Believe in the eternal reunion just beyond the horizon's eyelids. Blink. Blink again. Believe in the difference between today and tomorrow. Take it serious as a heart attack on a steady diet of love. Believe in love. Believing love takes courage, like believing in ghosts, like now you see me, now you don't, like feeling something you cannot see, like seeing something you cannot feel, like I can't believe she's gone when she's gone. But see persons disappearing from this planet all the time. I believe in 4-year-olds. Believe in routine traffic stops. Believe in memories. Believe the future is what you make it, and the past can't be unmade. Believe hard enough to make us come true. Because when they are armed, doing their best to erase us from our future. We are open-armed, doing our best to erase hate from our vocabulary, from our highways, from our cafes, from our concerts, from our suburbs, from our bakeries, from our churches, from our mosques, from our women's health centers, and from our elections. Believe in carrying on. Believe in survivor syndrome. Believe in grief and gratitude. But whatever you do, believe in each other. Like the cracked earth believes in the rain. Like the broken heart believes in the horizon and knows it is still alive by the beat, 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 beating of the pain. Believe that the blink is a day, that the next blink is a year. Believe in time instead of the right words. Believe in his instead of his last words, believe in tears. Believe in the unbelievable. Believe those who no longer be live get the better end of the deal. Believe in prayers even after they go unanswered. Aim a poem at the sky because Hail Marys can change things. Aim a poem at a neighbor with the belief that it heals. Believe in something because believing in nothing is the beginning of how we vanish without a trace. Believe how we love. Believe in how we love. Know it is the fingerprint we impress on this planet, the matter that can't be destroyed, the breadcrumbs left for those that will lose us in our sleep too soon, and the ladder to those whose precious faces we haven't seen in far, far too long. Thank you. Our next poet to the stage. You may know him by his cookies, but better than his cookies is his poetry, and I will bring you Billy Brown.
I love Elizabeth, oh yes I do. I love Elizabeth, oh yes I do. I love Elizabeth, oh yes I do. Elizabeth, I love you. That's the lullaby I used to read to my daughter Elizabeth before she died in a car crash in 1996. She died in a crash in Claremont, California, and the boy who was driving, I spoke with him on the phone a few days later, and he was very, very afraid that I would be angry with him. I would never forgive him. I forgave him at that moment, invited him to Albuquerque to the memorial service for my daughter, and he came along with his mother and his aunt and slept on my son's, Elizabeth's brother's bedroom floor that night. And I think my forgiving him meant that I could lead a joyful life rather than a bitter, angry, pinched up life. And I believe that my forgiving him gave him the opportunity to live a full and a wonderful life as well. Thank you. About 4 years, almost to the day after my daughter died in August of 1996, 5 years, came 9/11. And within a month or two after 9/11, I flew to New York City and I went to the site of of Ground Zero. And they had a book there that was open for any visitor to write what they wanted to in the book. So I composed this poem. Is there any difference? Crashing, smashing steel, music of violent collisions, spurting, flowing blood, majesty of hemorrhaging wounds, streaming, splashing tears, moisture of eternal grief. Is the tragedy of these thousands any different from her tragedy? Is the desperation of these parents any different from her father's desperation? Is the ton of their blood any different from her gallon? Their blood and hers are as one. Their desperation and mine are as one. Their tragedy and Elizabeth's are as one. One difference may be, I forgive and love Elizabeth's killer. Thank you. After following a course of expressing and honoring my grief for a number of years, I decided to change my life and live a life of joy. And so for tonight, I've written a poem which was inspired by a poem written last month by Susanna Rinderly called 9 Regrets. My poem is called 9 Joys. Joy 1, that I was born to a loving mother, Fern Brown, who loved to cuddle me on the couch, and a steady providing father, Robert Brown, who loved my mother and us 4 kids, which taught us all to love. Joy 2, that I lived across the street from Curry Bennett Park, a large space for hide and seek, pickup baseball and football games, which was flooded in winter for figure skating, speed skating, ice hockey games, and high plowed banks of snow for jumping over. Joy 3, that I had wonderful teachers who recognized and praised my talents. I could not believe that my 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Hobie, beautiful, beautiful Mrs. Hobie, would do the nasty things that would result in her pregnancy. Am I still on? Mrs. Farnham could not believe that I made a perfect score on a 100-item test over her unit on China. Joy 4, that I had the good fortune of attending Alma College, where I majored in mathematics, was inspired to become a mathematics educator by my calculus professor, and met my future wife, Anne, the mother of my 2 children. Joy 5, that I earned a PhD in mathematics. I even typed my own PhD thesis and became a mathematics professor, which I now do at UNM part-time. For me, there are few joys higher than helping a student to believe in herself and succeed in mathematics or statistics when she did not believe it was possible. Joy 6, that I am that I am father to 2 magnificent, beautiful, talented children, Elizabeth and Alexander, whom I love to cuddle on the couch. And then on June 29th, this last June 29th, my first grandchild, Nevada, was born, daughter to my son Alex and his lovely wife. Joy 7, that I found love again after my divorce. Everyone needs to love and to be loved. And that my sweetheart Sandy's son, Aaron, who has cystic fibrosis, now is healthier than ever before in his 40 years with a miraculous pair of transplanted disease-free lungs, playing ice hockey, winning a bronze medal in the 2014 Houston Transplant Games, and passionately composing, playing, singing, and recording his heart songs. Joy 8, that I have a strong tenor voice, giving me opportunities to sing on tour with British bass bands in England, Scotland, and Wales, sing in Carnegie Hall, and on tour in Austria with the Albuquerque Civic Chorus, and currently sing with 2 other Albuquerque choruses. Joy 9, that after more than 30 years of hating poetry, I was humiliated by my high school English teacher regarding poetry. So I hated poetry. I am now a poet. I love poetry and provide opportunities for others to express themselves through poetry at my monthly poetry readings called Fixed and Free, and in my 2 edited poetry anthologies, Fixed and Free Poetry Anthology 2011 and 2015, which are out there. Joy 10, that after Elizabeth's death and my divorce from her mother, I became a chef, a baker, and a caterer, that I received great joy from sharing my food. So please give me and yourself the joy of enjoying my 2 now experimental cookies, green chili pinon oatmeal crisps and cherry chocolate chip oatmeal crisps. They're out there. I wish you all the joy of peace, love, forgiveness, and cookies. Thank you.
Told you his poetry was as good as his cookies. You didn't believe me. Nevada, that's a beautiful name for a granddaughter, isn't it? That struck me very nicely. Thank you, Billy. So the next poet I'm about to bring to the stage, and actually I want to also acknowledge that we reached out. Part of our outreach strategy was to just and make this a community space, and even with doing the due diligence of not trying to pimp, if you will, the grief of the families. We did invite the families. I don't know Officer Webster's family directly, nor do I know Lily Garcia's family directly, but I know people who know them, and we also invited the chief, and we invited city councilors. The mayor's out of town. I work in City Hall. I knew he would be out of town, but I spoke to him, and they were nice enough to give us this space. But I know that there is one elected or possibly elected that I got to see in the lobby, and I want to thank them for being here. We didn't invite them here as elected officials. We invited them here to kind of be part of this community healing. But I appreciate Raul Torres being here. He's running for district attorney, so thank you, Raul, for coming. And I don't think he's here, but I appreciate Ike Benton, City Councilor Ike Benton, because he definitely shared it. Like, you know, we're Facebook buds, so he shared it in his network and even commented on the page. And we want them to know that they're people too. I actually had the opportunity to speak to the chief in the midst of the funeral, and you know, without comparing apples to oranges, I've coached teams, and like when you lose a teammate, the coach is sad, and if that's what being in the police force is, it's a team, then the coach is sad too. So we invited them, you know. So we just want to let you guys know that we tried to reach out as far as we could. This next poet I'm bringing to the stage, you might recognize him from television this morning. He was on the Tube on Kara QE13, and he also has a poetry reading that he'll tell you a little bit more about, and has invites and flyers for you outside. But I want to thank Marcial Delgado for being here and invite him up to the stage to share his poems with you.
How y'all doing? This is for all those who lost their lives to addiction. Echoes of regret beckon the emotions of a tormented life, forgotten dreams, helpless hope, and the memories of love that never was erupt in an underdeveloped mind. A weekend of isolation, mourning, and fatal thoughts of suicide. Uppers and downers, Brillo and needles, pipes and straws, a self-medicated mental withdrawal. On hands and knees, the shadow of death stalks and crawls. A weight, a pathetic kingdom to crumble and fall. A hangman's knot or a ball of lead. The nightmares won't stop until the heart is dead. When fingers are pointed and blood is shed. A victim of time, shackled to a dying bed. Voices of reason bounce around a stubborn head. Sponsored by the hateful words spoken by a woman in red. Trust in lies, bruised heart, shattered glass, abusive cry, one last goodbye. Thank you. This next one is called 6 Years Old. 6 years on the earth in 1985. 6 years old with a broken heart and a hollow life. I remember the last time I saw her face, sitting on my auntie's sofa, and I couldn't sit next to her. No, I wouldn't sit next to her because I was scared. I was so damn scared. I feared that her cancer was contagious. 6 years old, and I was too stupid to realize that my mommy was dying. Mom, mother, Jefita, mama, she passed away. On a lonesome night, her body broke down and her spirit took flight. I remember the night she died. I was with my cousin at my Auntie Charlotte's house. Cousin Carlos asked a question that will never be removed from my mind. Your mom just died. Why are you not crying? I couldn't cry because my small and feeble mind didn't understand the difference between living and dying. I saw my mom lifeless. I saw her lying motionless inside of a casket next to the altar of Sunset Parish. A face of non-expression in her flesh appeared to be made of plastic. Sympathetic voices with mythological explanations. She's in a better place. God needs her in heaven. 1,000 apologies. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Stop, 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 stop. Stop being so fucking sorry. 6 years old and I couldn't stand being pitied. 6 years old and I saw my mother's casket being lowered beneath the dirt. That's when my world changed. That's when I first felt the hurt. That's when life smacked me around with a spiked baseball bat. Tears fell like the heaviest of downpours down the sides of my face. I cried and I cried and I cried. I felt the innocence of my young heart shatter and break in half. Finally, I realized that I'll never again feel her presence, never feel her touch, or never feel her love. I miss her. 36 years old and I still cry. I sit and see her memories washing from within my mind. Sometimes I lie in bed, wallowing in my own regrets and depression. That's how cancer took my mom from me. Thank you. Yes, I put on my own poetry show here at Echante Casa de Cultura every second Thursday of every month from 7 to 9 p.m. if you guys are interested. I got invites out there. Thank you.
So the organizers in the room, thank you for being here because you all work hard to create these sort of spaces for the community all the time. And though we were able to, with your help, with the community's help, put together this event after kind of, again, some high profile occurrings in our community, there are weekly, bi-weekly, and monthly spaces for this kind of healing and this kind of collective community therapy. And so just know that, and please try to support these artists and organizers who are in the room to do that, because even in just doing this one, Bill and I know, it's a lot of work. So, and they do it weekly or monthly or bi-weekly. So thank you for being here. The next poet I shall bring to the stage, you also might recognize from television This Morning. They were with Bill on there today, and I have the fortunate pleasure of calling her my girlfriend. So a recent transplant from Denver. Make some noise for Ebony Isis Booth.
That'll do, right? Hi. Soon I will be done. The trouble of this world, trouble of this world, trouble of this world. One is responsible for life. It is the small beacon in that terrifying darkness from which we come and to which we shall return. James Baldwin. Soon, I will be done with the trouble of the world, but too soon are too many done, drowned in blood and power, choked by batons and gunpowder. 10,000 ways to die, but this trend leaves black folks $10,000 shy of a respectable homegoing. Young corpses are costly. Cover the abrasions with cake foundation. Fashion neckties around severed spinal cords and bruised flesh. Black and blue flesh. Boys in blue tear through black boy flesh. Black boys buried in Jordans we thought they might die for. Al Sharpton's people to go flipping through family photo albums to choose a good pick. One where the blue, broken baby with the big eyes looks like he was a nice boy. Launch a GoFundMe or judge a bereaved mother for not having her first, middle, or youngest child's lives insured. Primp and primetime mama and daddy for the spotlight. Consider the authenticity of designer frames, damning tears on Piers Morgan tonight. She last spoke with her son last night. Yesterday, everything was all right. Today, black mommies and daddies are interrogated in HD, justifying state-sanctioned executions for fear of adolescent threats, telling the world where the black boy you raised got that Hulk-like strength, hiding behind knockoff shades, protecting us from seeing their gamma strength pain, 'cause just yesterday, they only knew each other's names. Now beg the world for clicks to collect enough money to pay a man to handle babies, blue broken, black body gestated, now forsaken down here dead on granite in summertime, in the morgue, looking at a face that will offer no smirk or bear a family resemblance next of kin, mother, father, They had the same smile, but you can't tell now. Yesterday, they laughed deep and mouths spread wide open, chests full of air and ambition. Today, bellowed from the darkest place where light goes to fade, chest full of lead and systematic oppression. Conversations in the kitchen are hushed and heavy. Sounds of sorrow provide a soundtrack. News cameras that never come when black boys burn holes through their reflections as an exercise in belonging somewhere. They disrupt the street life. Rhonda coming from the shop to smooth the frayed hair and soothe the frazzled nerves of mama. She can't go on TV looking any old kind of way. In ritual black girl magic, they share herb and small white pills served in Advil caps with a sip of beer. Here, swallow this. Get ready to talk about how, even though he might have smoked a little weed, he didn't deserve to die. Not like this, not on the air, not in the heat, not dead in the street, not scraped up stiff and cooked, then gutted and pumped, glued shut and propped, dressed and gawked, shut up in pine box while half the world watches and the other half won't. And somebody else has to pick a song for Shirlene to sing. And Miss Murray's macaroni tastes like sawdust this time, and can't nobody get to the church on time. He looked good, considering. How's she holding up? I got a fifth of Hennessy in my trunk. Anybody got a cigarette? Did the family leave for the gravesite yet? I'll meet y'all back at the house. All right, I think I'm gonna hang around. Wait till the gravediggers come off that hill and crank a once beautiful, broken by blue, black body into municipal ground. I'm gonna try to go back to living like death is still my reward. This poem is for Mike Brown and Trayvon Martin and Oscar Grant and Sandra Bland, Sean Bell, Walter Scott, Sam DeBose, Jamar Clark, Michael Marshall, Freddie Gray, Matthew Ajibade, Frank Smart, Natasha McKenney, Brian Pickett, and Andre Murphy, Artago Howard, Alvin Haynes, Jeremy Lett, Terry Price, Calvin Reed, Thomas Allen Jr., Tony Robinson, Nishels Vincent, Anthony Hill, Terrence Moxley, Jonathan Paul, Ascari Roberts, Brandon Jones, Denzel Brown, Dominic Wise, and to every mother who had to put her boy in the ground too soon.
So we offer up this space, thank you, Ebony. We offer up this space as, again, a place to grieve for more national high-profile losses, and then, of course, our personal losses, as you heard Billy Brown speak so bravely about. And in doing that, there will be people who will say, so what are you going to do, write a poem about it? And our answer is going to be like, you damn right, we're going to write a poem about it. And because there's powers bigger than the powers that take people from this planet. And those powers listen to music. Those powers listen to poetry. They give us the music and give us the poetry. And so what we're doing works. And we talk each other into existence and into belief and into the future that we want to see and be part of. So this is that space. Thank you, poets, for helping to create that. The next artist I'll bring to, I didn't design this to be like all family members. The poetry family is very much a family, but then there's like your biological family and your church family and all these other families, right? And so I live with the last poet, and the next poet is actually my son's godmother. And she's an amazing poet, and I knew her before she was my son's godmother. And she has her own workshops and readings that I hope she will let you know about. But I met her right out there where you are and heard her bring her voice to the world, and it's amazing. So make some noise for Liza Wolfe Francis.
Hi, good evening. Yes, I do have a series going for writing, and it'll begin again next fall called Color de Sandia, and it's a series of writing workshops. We had a lot of fun this fall. Right now I'm starting an organization, a nonprofit for Spanish-speaking survivors of sexual violence. I work a lot with immigrants. I've worked with immigrants for 20 years, Spanish-speaking specifically. And the first poem I'm going to read is something that's not actually, it's about the humanitarian crisis going on at the border. And it's something I feel like we don't hear often enough. But many people are dying, and I feel like it's a general reflection on how we're treating outsiders, as some people are naming many of the people who are coming to our country and who have come to our country. We are certainly a nation of immigrants, and so this is for immigrants. It's for people who are dying. It's for all of us to open our minds and our hearts and make some change. Last Saturday night, I parked my pickup with a generator in the back behind some brush trees off Highway 83, just a ways up from the U.S.-Mexico border. The glow of the border fence light trying to light up the sky. I could almost hear the whisper of smugglers, the held breath of migrants, desert growing up into some made-up line. My border, your border, this border that didn't used to be there, before Manifest Destiny, before we began taking Mexico's workers, before people ever wanted to come here. I hear the bobcats, the coyotes, the arroyo toad, lost from their homes, crossed just like the people. Now 15 feet of steel, $4 million of tax money per mile to keep people out. People I don't mind being here, people looking for work, looking to better their lives, 2,000 miles and $8 billion on a fence. So I ran an extension cord from generator to border death sentence, got right up there on that fence, pulled out my Sawzall, hung a cylinder tarp around myself to block the sparks and the light from my headlamp, because sparks and fire call those ice guards like nothing. How long before one of those sensor alarms picks me up on radar? How long before the migra comes running? If anyone would have seen me, they might have thought I was crazy trying to break into Mexico. My breath in the night, my breath in the quiet, in the pawing of dirt, in the mad scramble to safety, in between the rattlesnakes, the thorns, the blistering feet, the dry scratched throats, the emptying bellies. This fence is keeping all of us in. This is you versus me. I am talking about injustice, about low-cost labor. I am talking about this fence pushing people into the most dangerous regions where they die of failed dreams, of thirst, of pneumonia. How many times do we say dying of thirst? Foaming mouths, blind hallucinations, take your clothes off, crazy. Let me drink the sun. Let me drink you. God, let us drink each other. This fence is the enemy. Last Saturday night, I began sawing away at the middle, then at the bottom, and then at another post and at another. I pulled oil from my carrier case, and I oiled the shit out of that blade and sawed until the blade broke. I switched the first out for a second, and I kept sawing. Sparks flying, I was like a firefly. My ammo dancing around me like fireworks. Into the night, I worked until there was a hole, one small hole. I closed up the tarp, slid up that extension cord, carried my Sawzall all the way back to the truck, took off without even being suspect to the Border Patrol wagon a quarter mile down the road. And next Saturday night, I'll be back, and I'll make another hole and another until the border is filled with them. Then somebody will have to say something meaningful about immigration reform when Saturdays are still before us, but a fence is not. I'm going to read one more poem. This is just kind of my response to all the tragedies that have been going on in our world and in our country as well. 10 minutes until the world ends. I don't want to spend a lot of time looking for you. Just be there to hold and read a poem to. Maybe something by Robert Haas or Lucille Clifton. And our son. Instead of apologize to him, we will dance. I will jump up and down, eat dark chocolate, sip whiskey, scratch the dog behind the ears. I will cry and then want to hear a joke. Tickle me. How much time is left? Who pushed the button? Who decided? I'll light a candle. Hold on to you, my partner. Hold on to our son. I've already said I love you to everyone else. There's no time now. Let's run outside and down the street, screaming we loved life, pick up sticks, throw rocks. Let's write a love note to the world, a quick scattered message, a heart. I'll leave it on the counter. Let's hold hands again, count slowly, and I will sing to both of you with my last minute of breath. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love Please don't take my sunshine away.
Hey, if you're standing in the back, come on down. We have plenty of room. Thank you for being here. We welcome you for joining us. And the next poet I'm going to bring to the stage, thank you, Liza. Man, was like an icon before I arrived, and I'd heard about him, and then I met him, and he was super cool and seems to have endless energy, and apparently just published 3 books. So if you don't know who he is, you are about to know who he is. Make some noise for Larry Goodell.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Peace and love. Peace and love evolved backwards into the above when everything was perfect. When was that? Do you have a balloon under your hat? Even the super wealthy live in fear of being deposed. In fact, I am their fear. Those poets why doesn't somebody shut them up? Nobody has it easy, and it takes guts to get old. But if you've got to have a goal, peace is pretty good. Stick those groans up your ass, Mr. Military Fart-Face. Stop warring against your own people, everybody. Go against your petty self-serving nature, Mr. Human. And stop putting down women and screwing over your neighbor. You don't need Viagra, you need love by the acre. Real love that is blushing with compassion, the ability to touch and hug yourself out of this mess. You need a benevolent group that can calm down your ego. You got your Dharma, your teachings, your Wikipedia, your books, your internet, libraries of the world. You got your Buddhas, your Jesus, your Moses, your black elks, your swamis, your gods galore, your teachers. But you need your Sangha, like Thich Nhat Hanh says. You need a community of positive interest to build up the commons, what's good for everybody. Everybody gives some for the good of all. Don't laugh. It's possible. It's inevitable. It's filling in the blanks, connecting the dots, seeing the vision that exists in love, a talking circle of direction. From the drums of the original land, the indigenous thoughts and prayers, the cycle of the seasons, the locality of love and produce and cooperation. A locality of friends, not to gouge each other's eyes out or work each other to death for gain, but to get together to build a platform for song, for music, for performers, and for the art of governing ourselves. I got my gun, hon, isn't it fun? You have your gun too, hon, isn't it fun? It keeps everyone else on the run, hon, isn't that fun? I could keep you on the run, hon, if I wanted to, wouldn't that be fun? I'm faster on the trigger than you, hon, isn't that fun? In fact, I could keep everyone on the run, hon. Isn't that the best of fun? Here's the solution, I think, one. Keep plugging away. It's great to be able to say the same things over and over, like an aging athlete who doesn't want to give it up. Jumping back on the carousel of concussions, the inconsistency of performance for one last half hurrah and then another, the last limping hurrah. What else am I supposed to do? Take up marbles? Lives blocked by the horror of change, the terrifying turn of direction? No, I'll keep on going against the concept of death and the deterioration which is part of its coming on. I'll keep on whipping the white boys and standing up for nature, even if I say and sing the same thing over and over. After all, I'm not an athlete. And finally, since I'm from Roswell, you guys don't worry at all. If things get too tough, there's a solution, and it's quite pleasant. Your 2 lips are better than my 3. Your 1 nose better than my 2. Your many hairs better than my 1. But will you please rub my antennae? Pucker up, earthling. Let me touch you with my ambrosicide. Embrace my photosynthetics, and let me organoidal you. Oh, flampa, frosty, flangapoo.
I told you he was a legend. Now you know. So, man, for every poet that, like Billy Brown talked about in the beginning, there's always a teacher when you're young that's like, you're never going to be a poet. Give it up, right? There's always one of those teachers when you're young. And then, we all laugh at them now. Look at me now, right? And then for every teacher there's an opposite teacher, right? For every teacher that's like that, there's an opposite teacher. And there's a teacher that actually gives you wings and says that, you got talent, kid. You got a voice, you got a story. You can do whatever you want. You should pursue this. And so for some of my friends and some of my favorite poets, Marimay Moffitt is that teacher. And so I get to bring Marimay Moffitt to the stage. Make some noise.
Thank you. Maybe I'll move down a little bit. Wow, what an introduction. Thank you. 2 summers ago, I had the opportunity to go to Germany. I have a daughter who lives there. And she lives here some of the time, but she's there most of the time. And I wanted to see this. I lived there for a month. I wanted to experience the city that from such incredible darkness has come into much more light. And Germany has welcomed 800,000 Syrian refugees. They're struggling with it, but they're doing it. This is a piece of prose, actually. It's called Das Schwimmbad in Berlin. My daughter's German boyfriend nods towards the pool. I've never seen a Turkish woman in full swim attire, he says, as the woman pulls herself up the ladder from the water. I watch in wonderment, too. A soaking dark blue fabric sheathes her head to toe. Just a circle of face, a circle of each heel, her toes and fingers exposed. She is full-bodied under the clinging knee-length dress, long slim leaves and legging pants. She tucks stray hairs back into her stretchy hijab, head and neck wrap seamlessly attached to the dress. When we walk by, I glance at her face. Magazine gorgeous, perfect skin. That she only shows skin and hair at home makes tons of sense. Her body has privacy, yet she dominates the entire pool with the regality of her jumps from the high dive. The children hold their breath as she climbs the highest board to attempt again and again the perfect blue bullet-like entrance, feet first, making little splash. her arms and hands pressed to her generous thighs, her chin up, her face straight ahead. She adjusts her wrist coverings and shakes her dress down into position after each jump. She won't ever leave my mind. Fun-loving, water-loving, high dive daring, she's my new unknown friend in a city full of people foreign to me. She is the last one jumping as the guards clear the pool for the fast approaching storm. We all hustle back to the dressing room, then the covered bus stop where little Turkish boys press us back on the bench as they seek shelter from the rain, rattling away in a language I don't recognize, but looking just like little boys everywhere. One asks my daughter for the time and when the bus is coming, in Turkish. She pulls out her iPhone to check how many minutes, and I marvel at the lack of fear in this city. Okay, this is the first time I'd heard Martial, and I brought this poem, and I'm going to read it. It's about this Thanksgiving, and this is dedicated to anybody and everybody, every family struggling with an addict in the family, each person in the family struggling with their own recovery, and that devastation for which we've lost quite a few in this city. Thanksgiving 2015. As if he were one of the kids no one worries about, maybe just a friend of the family, the oddball who comes on holidays only. He was welcomed in. He was welcomed in, him and his new girlfriend, though she qualifies as woman, a lovely woman friend, his live-in lover whom his own son and daughter have yet to meet. But it's very weird, the granddaughter had said. Grandma, a little creepy, don't you think? She's only 5 years older than me. And Grandma was ready then, sort of knee-jerk, waiting for this punch and counterpunch. My grandma did it, 20 years between her and my gramps. But after they had come in and placed their coats on the guest bed and settled down beyond the introductions, their plates filled, and many words of gratitude for having them over, there was the silent rule: do not contribute to the disease. No need on this night of gratitude for uncomfortable questions about health and welfare, jobs or futures, just a willingness to enjoy their presence, so long awaited. Do no harm. The young woman is bravely and with confidence meeting the parents. No one risked tipping the balance, the level honesty of it, like the heavy wooden seesaws of old that children loved, sometimes just straddling the middle all alone. Thank you. Well, I hadn't expected to read that, but it was in my bundle. Okay, now I have the pleasure of introducing somebody that I've just recently come to know. She's my new boss. Nkazi Sinandili, sorry, don't know how to say the last name, Nkazi, is a registered nurse trained in South Africa. She came to the U.S. in 1981, earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Michigan, worked as an RN, but now she is a volunteer as a refugee advocate, service provider, ESL tutor, program coordinator, co-founder of Immigrant and Refugee Resource Village of Albuquerque, nonprofit, 100% volunteer-driven, unfunded, conceived idea to form micro-enterprise. And when you go back out through the room, you'll see her micro-enterprise. These women are forming a collective to support themselves. Those beautiful things they make are very inexpensive, and they go towards feeding a bunch of children. Okay. Let's see. She co-established the project, the Enterprise Project with Asian and African women from New Mexico Women's Global Pathways. Since 2006, Nkazi and her husband have been serving refugees, invisible immigrant children and their families. And they are seeking volunteer teachers. And anyway, her information is out there. And also beading and sewing. Beading and sewing is what they do in their collective. So she's going to talk to you a little bit tonight, and here's a new opportunity for everybody. Nikazi Sindali.
Molweni. Ninjani. I just said hi. And how are you? I am tired, very tired. And as you can see, I put my shoes off because since dawn this morning, I went and I was driving all these women from Africa, from the Middle East. And then I take them to the sewing center every day, mostly about 60 hours a week, since 2006. And why do I do that? Am I crazy? Nobody gives me a penny, nobody pays me. When everybody else is getting funding, our invisible people and myself, we're invisible. But do I want to go on? Can I afford to go on at the expense of my health? The answer is yes. Because I do not own myself. This body is not mine. Everything I have is from above. And I always say, God, you are the only one who will carry me through. When the funds are not coming our way, when people are like, who are these people? They are refugees. Why do they want here? When they tell us, go back to where you come from. When they tell us, oh, you come here to take our food stamps, you take our money, that hurts. So that is why I keep on going, because the people that are here, they are called refugees, but they are just human, just like you and me. They have needs, just like you and me. They have to eat in the morning. They have to feed their kids. They have to get up early at 4 o'clock in the morning, try to find a place where they're going to try to find a job. They cannot drive. They have to learn how to ride a bus. And at times, they can't even say anything because even if they wanted to say something, they do not speak English. And so, some of them are scared. And some of them will say, oh, I wish I was back in the refugee camp. Can you imagine that? Someone coming to the USA, the land of honey, the land of paradise, saying that I want to go back to Africa, or I want to go back to the Middle East. Can you imagine that? I hear that every day when I work with these women and their husbands. So allow me to say tonight, with this climate, what is going on, the bigotry, the hatred, and the killings, and the words we use against refugees or immigrants. This is the first time in my 8 years of serving refugees that I'm afraid. I'm afraid to go to the center because I do not know when a bullet can shoot me. Somebody trying to find the people from the Middle East, or anyone wearing I don't even know what these things are called, but wearing that like this, a scarf like that. I'm scared, but I always pray to God and say, God, please keep us safe. Because even right now in your neighborhoods, there are people, there are women, there are children, there are men who are afraid to go outside. Because when they listen to the TV and hear the hatred that's been spewed from people's mouths about how they do not want refugees or immigrants in this country. There are people who are afraid to go out because they do not know if somebody will just kill them. So I take care, I work with those people, and I don't do that by myself. There are other agencies here in New Mexico that work to help refugees and immigrants. So if you thought that a refugee has come here to take your job, you need to examine yourself. If you thought that a refugee is just somebody who just decided to come to America, no, a refugee does not choose where they are supposed to resettle. Remember the genocide in Rwanda. Remember South Africa, the apartheid regime. Remember the killings that are going everywhere in the Middle East. Those refugees do not choose to come to this country or to other countries. The United States government and the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, they choose people who must come because those people cannot go back to their countries. I was surprised to hear someone at the debate yesterday say that those refugees in Syria or Jordan, wherever they are, they want to go back home. I said, what? I don't believe it, because most refugees do not want to go back where there's war and they fear to be killed. So refugees don't come to New Mexico or other states because they chose to. They have no choice. They cannot go back. And so it is incumbent upon us as New Mexicans to embrace refugees, to embrace all those people who are taking care of refugees. It is about time that we talk to the city, the state, and the governors, because they are the ones who decide that, oh, you know, New Mexico is the best place for refugees, or we take care of refugees, and yet they do not really do a very good job in taking care of refugees. From what I have seen, and I see every day, refugees are like dumped in New Mexico, especially the refugees from Africa, because the refugees from Africa are, some of them are darker than I am, and some people tell them, go back to Africa. And they hear every day that saying, go back to Africa. So New Mexico, I'm not going to say much about what we do because she's already said that, but I can just appeal to you. If you hear or see someone that doesn't look like you or look like me or even is darker than I am, please pray to God to give you a nice and kind heart and lend a hand to that person. Even if you didn't speak, let them see that you at least you care about them and that you are concerned about their plight. So if you hear somebody says, we need volunteers here, please respond to that call because the work is not easy. I do about 60 hours a week, my husband about 30 hours on top of his job, volunteering to make sure that these people, whether they're from Middle East or Asia or anywhere, that we can do a little bit to help them. So this is me. I'm an African woman, I'm a Middle Eastern woman sometimes I'm an American woman, Mexican, Cuban, because we serve everybody from everywhere. So may you, as you go outside and as you go out, look at those tables. And if you have $1 or 50 cents, if you're not going to buy anything, just grab something, donate. Because there's a lady there from Ugandan refugee camps. She's been working hard with her husband alongside other women. So she could use at least $1 tonight. May God bless you, and may you pray for this country, because I think it is a great country, but people are messing it up. God bless you.
Thank you, Mama Kazi. So when we talked about putting this together and people were like, you know, can poetry be a solution, as I said before, we were, the kind of response that we weren't allowed to say out loud was that, well, I think at this point all options should be on the table because whatever we tried before isn't working very well. So maybe give poetry a shot. Who knows, right? So this is what we know how to do, so this is how we can help, this is how we can give. We wanted to bring you some other solutions tonight, and we thank Mama Kazi for being here and offering you a solution on how to help, how to make you know, our state a kinder, gentler place, right? And then we'll have a couple of other ways that you can actually directly help the Garcia family. There's an event coming up that you can support, and there's a petition actually for Officer Webster, and so we'll share that with you towards the end of the night. In the meantime, I'll bring up the next poet. I know Natachi from her day job, which I'm not gonna, she'll tell you that if she wants to tell you that. But you all might know Natachi Mama Day Gray by the name Mama Day because her grandfather is N. Scott Mama Day. And so make some noise for Natachi Mama Day Gray.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Before I begin, I would like to reiterate yet again the importance of this particular event and coming together during this time to heal with words and music and performance. Thank you for being here. I'm so happy to be here. This poem is called Red Bouquet. Redness is tiresome. A volcano erupts through fog and sentiment, forcing its way into a white film, clouds to hold the consciousness. A crowd of fallen gulls become a nutrient padding for wax myrtle shrubs along the seashore. Lusty valley, show me the black shoes that were once, and the black charcoal supply, and the ashes that coat the green. There had been a persimmon transparent ribbon of friendless longing at the base of it. It is dark red, almost purple, that ripples and glistens in full moonlit streams, parallel cold rivers and the cattle migration in the west. Music mimics the sound from the womb, falling away with gratitude, nesting in the open wound. Parts of us are rescued from the melt. Some of our ideas seek a warm lit corner, preserved in pieces, perhaps remembered by the starless afterseam of the black salt water. A soldier blows a goodbye kiss into the world. His body is reminiscent of flowers and clean mud from the beginning. It moved with vitality and strength and numberless fields of grace. I saw it, and became the food for the French marigold and a bed for the fresh fallen snow. I wonder who he was, if he was a brilliant father, if he was tender loving and an old soul son. Vegetables take root even in the lowness. Red flower, corn, poppy, Remembrance Day, a common weed with a seeded head, red paper, nostalgic cherry petals, buds with blue oil, figure of sleep, peace, and death, commemorate, commemorate. Seeker, adopt the philosophy that birds and mollusks harbor. Memorialist, keep the essence bottled in an auric encasement eternally. We remember the belled anklets that chimed when she ran. Little girl, water lily, dance and sing in the open cognizance. Tiger lily, coated leaves, long stalks, solitary flower with her underground stems. She floats fragrant, gorgeous, in quiet syrup. Fresh water with its colors and its cradling. Redness takes its efficacy from child's moxie. I change with the brightness and with the pink light of my stage and with the weather. I eat rich foods and I sleep, and I still do my eyes and my perfume rubbing wrists in my ritual as if it were the very last time I would do so. It creates the feeling of abundance and life luxury, even if it is not there. I am older and a different color with each moment. Some come to an uninhabited, coldish ecru sugar standstill. They stay the same in mind's whole sprouted reflection. The little one stays her little self forever. Loss bleeds down to the rouge foundation and nudges achingly up against its cloverleaf bend. We all feel it. It is a stubborn, lingering scent of their baby hair and a grandmother's baking. It comes in hot and recent. Winter coats from last season are left with precious trinket belongings in the pockets. Summer heat wilts the ever-standing. Red flower, corn, poppy. Time carries this common weed, And there is a lovely red, spread through all of the layers of the black and the gray. Redness is impassioned. A volcano erupts through life and mirth, forcing its way into a peppery film, clouds to hold the downcast. Little girl, poppy crown. The red is so bright and so beautiful in her hair. Loss bleeds down to the rouge foundation, and we all feel it. Time becomes a nutrient padding for the wax myrtle shrubs along the shore, the food for the French marigold, and the bed for the fresh fallen snow. In the clear and colorful heart, there exists the art aptness, the intangible and unsurpassed ability to bear the brilliant light out of the darkness. It gathers love to surface. Commemorate, commemorate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natachi. So the next poet, you will know Maria's work from Women in Creativity Month. If you are, I see a lot of poets and organizers in the audience, so we know her from being around everything from the literary academic poetry readings to the slam readings, and that's why I love Maria. She's been a tireless supporter of all poets, of women poets, of youth poets, and of me. So make some noise for Maria Leyba.
There you go. Well, thank you. This is a wonderful night. All I kept thinking is, despite everything else, we have our love to sustain us through everything. This is called Susto. Last night's massacre left me unsettled, wishing I could reach into that screen, do something, stop the tragedies of suffering people filled with susto. I filled with frustration for the innocent seeking asylum, for the ones racing to safety, for the devastated families who have lost a loved one, for the ones whose life ended unexpectedly, all suffering from susto. In the obscure night, I dreamt of mi tia, who came to rescue me, sabotaging my scarlet dreams, gently rubbing her ancient hands all over my bruised body and soul. Mijita, she whispered in a voice sounding like a crying violin. Susto, mijita está sufriendo de susto. She handed me a cup of tea. Un té para limpiarte, para sanarte. I have walked around the world gathering hierbas from swamps, mountains, acequias. Un té para el mundo sufriendo tanto. Un té de la tierra de los ancianos. I swallowed this té of hierbas that speaks to me in the spirit language of plants, a medicinal té to cure me of susto. We knelt together, mi tia's withered body stronger than mine, holding me tightly, praying for the recent massacre, for the world suffering from susto. In the morning, I made myself a cup of yerba buena, sat in the calming silence, wanting only to love and heal. And this is called Santos Peregrinos. 9 days before Christmas, on the night of las Posadas de Barelas, Mama's alma was a star of David that guided mi familia back to her empty house in Barelas. Our joyful tears blew out perpetual candles of a sterile white apartment we could never call home, following Mama's sorrowful voice. Entren santo peregrinos, peregrinos, reciben este rincón, no de mi pobre morada, la morada, sino de mi corazón. Our tattered truck heavy with all our worldly possessions, stopping first at BCDC, patiently waiting in a crowded lobby for my son's release. Our faces marked in exhaustion, our feet trembling from a desolate journey in a rootless concrete jungle, Mama still singing. Entren santos peregrinos, peregrinos, reciben este rincón. no de mi pobre morada, la morada, sino de mi corazón. Held hands with unsettled children, sticky from Christmas candies, dressed in their finest Sunday clothes, soon to be reunited with incarcerated parents for the jail's annual Fiesta de Navidad. As sunset, the first luminarias are being lit in Barelas. Guards dump my bloody, disfigured son into my trembling arms. Instantly, babies stop crying. Children hold their silence in the grimy walls of their innocence. Only the sound of my tears falling on the concrete floor can be heard. His once handsome brown face is lost in a mass of raw, bloody flesh. Black-purple contusions cover his back. Traces of black footprints lace his angry shoulders. Shredded clothes hang limply on his young, slender frame. Hog-tied, dragged down streets of Burque by vindictive chotas. A brown-eyed little girl with tears in her eyes hands me her crumbled Kleenex. Viejitas extend their weathered hands filled with bendiciones. I gently guiding my son down 4th Street towards Barelas, where the glow of 1,000 luminarias light our way home. Father Blanche offers posada to all the weary cold peregrinos. Entren santos peregrinos, peregrinos, reciben este rincón. No de mi pobre morada, la morada, sino de mi corazón. Never again will we be peregrinos, finally arriving in our barrio, guided by Mama's brilliant alma that on this holy night shines with peace and love. Gracias.
Maria Leyba with the seasonal poem too, right? May 1,000 luminarias light your way home. Thank you, Maria. So time for some music. Y'all cool with that? Right? You can't have a proper ceremony, whether it's we want to call it a going home ceremony as we do in a black church, or any kind of honoring ceremony. It's not complete without music. So I would like to bring up our next, configuration, which includes my kind of co-organizer for tonight, Bill Nevins, and also he's going to be reading from Yeats in his own poetry, Jeannie Allen, who's going to be here on flutes, and then, of course, Harlow Pinson on fiddle.
In the Irish tradition, when a child goes missing, for whatever reason, it's said that that child is safe because the child is with the good folk, the little people, the she, also called the fairies. William Yeats, The Stolen Child. Where dips the rocky highland of Sleuth Wood in the lake, there lies a leafy island where flapping herons wake the drowsy water rats. There we've hid our fairy vats full of berries and of reddest stolen cherries. Come away, O human child, to the woods and waters wild with a fairy hand in hand, for the world's more full of weeping than you can understand. Dover base, as ignorant armies clash by night. He fell in Afghanistan sometime the day before. The major from the New Mexico National Guard couldn't find my house. And it was a stormy night in Albuquerque, so we talked by cell phone instead. No dress uniforms at my door. It was a clean 3 shots straight through the heart. He was dead before he hit the ground. The major was a father himself, he said. I could hear his kid behind the phone. I could see my own son reaching up to his dad. The major called back later. The government could fly me, the major said, to the dignified transfer at Dover base. I asked him where that was. The major said he thought it was maybe in Indianapolis, but he wasn't really sure exactly where. I looked it up on Google and found it is at Dover, Delaware, far from New Mexico, far from here. I don't know where he is. I know he is beautiful there. And as I read tonight, I think, and I hope everyone here will think, of Ashraf Fayyad, 35-year-old poet, presently under death sentence by beheading by the government of Saudi Arabia. For Ashraf Fayyad. En la guerre, in times of war, Coors, Exit I-40, Albuquerque. Let us not weep nor mourn this child. I know the truth firsthand of Dylan Thomas's words. After the first death, there is no other, which that Welsh bard roared out when a child burned in the London Blitz so long ago, yet somehow, recently. For no death is truly forgotten, neither that of my child, nor yours, nor theirs. As children die and the fire drone Blitz, America rains down upon the world. As children die in Syria, Iraq, Yemen, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Palestine, Israel, Albuquerque, as a child dies in a father's arms on our very own highway, road rage, some sigh, knowing this is truly havoc, the dogs of war. O Jerusalem, O Al-Quds, O Paris, O Raqqa, O Burqi, O children. Wherever bloody fools fling their blind bombs, blades, and bullets, oh, why must these or anyone's children die? Why must this child have died? Where were those guardian angels, fairies, and watching ancestors which we pretend float somewhere outside this world of cold murder? They were in truth nowhere. They never were, never shall be. To believe in some blind God that saw this happen and sat by dumb, passive, impotent, that did not or could not act would be to dishonor the name of any deity. Let's leave off our fantasies for a bit, folks. Let's instead believe in the lives, in the smiles, in the breathing joy and the reality of children. Let's believe, if we must believe, in warmth, in sun, not in ice, not in death, not in cold machismo, not in blind faith in the earth, in the mother. Even as the storms tear our world, tear our decent hearts, tear our minds. But with poet Dylan, let's not mourn. Let's just believe in that sweet joy. No more first deaths. No more. Let this first death be our last. Gracias.
Okay, 3 songs. The first is about the appeal of soldiering for a young man. It's a happy song. The second one is an Irish lament called The Wounded Hussar, which is about dying alone in a foreign land. And the third one is just a simple jig that's fun and about hope. Thank you.
What, no dancing in the aisles? You guys, I tell you. Thank you. You know, I think in a very popularized idea of awake, you know, I think that we can also consider this kind of poetry reading awake and an awakening, and kind of reaching out to each other and touching and feeling the person next to you and being like, you're here, you're still here, I see you, we're doing this together. So the next poet I get to bring up in that vein is a friend of mine that I met years ago at a birthday party, and we realized we were both writers, and have stayed in touch. And she wrote a special piece for this evening, so we wanted to add her to the lineup to share that piece with you. So without further ado, Paula Amar Schwartz.
Hakeem, thank you so much. I am so honored to be with this group of people standing together. I am Charlie Hebdo. Je suis Charlie. Je suis France. Ani Yisrael. I am America. I am a Jew. I am a lover of liberty and justice for all. Unlike Reverend Niemöller, I have stood with the oppressed. Will you now stand with me? Reverend Niemöller said, when they came for the socialists, I was silent. No socialist or trade unionist was I. When they came for the Jews, I was silent because I was not a Jew. When they came for me, no one was left to raise their voice. Can we now all raise our voice? Thousands, hundreds of thousands standing together from the Turi Fall, expanding out the world around, surround. Expanding out the world around, surround. Call out our voices raised, defending free expression. Raise your voice, shout out unafraid. Together let us proclaim a universal right, this night without fright. I am everyone, I am each one. I have the right to express me as you have to be thee. I have the right to live, the right to love each day, the right to stand or kneel or sit, the right to pray or not to pray. Let us all together live and love and learn to let each other live in peace. Shalom, salam, pais. And together for all of us, a prayer for compassion. What being dwells in the cavern, who on the mountain top, who in the valley below? When I see a lonely farmhouse, I may wonder who lives there. Do I dare to care? A flower blooms in the desert only after the rain. Perhaps we glimpse the hidden soul only after tears of pain. May I be open to know the souls of those I encounter on this path, and may those I meet be aware of mine and see my inner depth. May we walk this way together in wholeness and in peace.
Thank you, Paula. If you were following along at home, you know that I went to the name on the list after the person I'm going to bring up now. And the thing you need to know about Mitch Reyes is that a lot of what I get the pleasure of benefiting from, the community here the turnout of people who actually come to see poetry was groundwork that was laid a long time before I arrived. And one of those people who were like the pioneers of the poetry slam scene here, or the predecessor even to the poetry slam scene, were a group that was part Lisa Gill, you guys know who she is, and part Mitch Reyes. So make some noise for Mitch Reyes.
It's a real honor to be here tonight, and thank you all for coming. See if I can get this. Resolana Luz. Now I know that they are not just pretty words to say. I thought I knew, but now I know that rose trees never grow in this city. Till you've seen this trash can dream come true. You stand at the edge while people run you through. But I thank the Lord, there's people out there like you. Thank the Lord, there's people out there like you. South Broadway's got a lot of songs to sing. If we all know the tunes, we might join in. But I go my way alone. I'll sow my own seed shall be sown in New York City. The highway is no way for little Lily to go down. The callous man keeps riding, and the innocent, they can drown. But I thank the Lord for the people I have found. Thank the Lord for the people I have found. While Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatters, sons of bankers, sons of lawyers, turn around and say good morning to the night. For unless they see the sky, but they can, and that is why they know not if it's dark outside or light. No, they know not if it's dark outside or loose. Thanks.
Well, we're trying to save a little bit of time. My name is Bob Warren, and people that don't know me, Lily's death, Officer Webster's death, Officer Benner's death, were violent and ugly and terrible. And our son, Robbie, died in St. Louis in 2002. He was burned to death in a fire, and he was a firefighter. And thousands upon thousands of people mourned his death with us until the next news cycle. And the point in all of this is not to forget. The point of this is to remember that for every hurt, there is a balm somewhere. There is a smile in that great man Billy Brown over there with his hugs of love and compassion. When 40 days after Robbie was born, there was a prayer prayed over him that goes like this with a modern echo to it. Give, grant, we beseech thee, asking and imploring, O Heavenly Father, giver of all, that the child, this wondrous one, this Robert Bruce, held close and come early of this thy servant, this present one, this Barbara, mother in tears and travail, may daily increase, grow large and strong in wisdom, the knowledge of your love, and stature, the shape of your love, and to grow, be stretched and empowered in thy love, your surrounding presence and service, the duty of love, until he come, arrive to thy eternal joy, where he be now. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, servant, foot washer, Savior, friend. Amen. So be it. The so be it has now become the so it was. Robbie was born, and in accordance with this prayer prayed over him, he grew daily in ways we do not know. The private actions of the Godhead with a dedicated child are only to be wondered at. He grew strong and graceful and was fierce in winning, careful with the young, and gentle with his mother. He married, fathered children, was stubborn and unyielding, and walked unnaturally toward the fires that we run from. He was caught inside a rat trap building trying to save another as he had saved others, in coming full course from birth to blessing to that date, that place, that embolism of change, the call for help, the going in and dying. He came to, turn to, perhaps into some infinite kind of grace of love, where wifely tears, sister sobs, brothers, mothers' cries are horribly absorbed and given meaning in heart-stuffed voice and memory. The killing of him twice was tried, first by fire, then by throng. The hero-making apparat swung to, got legs geared up and handled him. The Hydra gathered its 10,000 eyes, council decided, and excluded him to hero, him to the other, him to the not us, him to the Olympian tribute of the serpentine lines of separation, quiet as a secret. He was not the other. He was not some shield-carried Homeric grunt, crazed by Athena or tweaked by differentiating Zeus. He was and is the us. But if hero, let him be familial Hebrew, perhaps PWT, loving and beloved husband, father, son, and brother, tribal, even clannish, excluding, not excluded, and carefully loving. And if there be greatness, let it be common, communal, and in love. There can be, for me, no claim of genitor, no responsibility of blood, only this small part that for me he was a child of my heart, and a dear, sweet boy and man. Prayed over in hope at birth, with pride in manhood, and now, so much older now, in grief and boundless gratitude. Thank you, dearest of souls, for marking my life with your love. Here ends the prayer. It almost always works. In the middle of the night, alone, and something occurs, some recall of hope, something that says, this is not all there is. Some other luminosity, a half-sure certainty that yes, shit happens, and yes, grace abounds, and yes, things fall apart, and yes, grace abounds again, and yes, sensible is nonsense, that yes is the only way to stay true. Yes. Yes, to thank you for the caring, the grace, the compassion, for the love and trust and laughter and blessing. Yes, to life in the face of all this crap and shit and violence and blood and bloodshed and horror. Yes. Thank you for the possibility of yes. It almost always works. Thank you.
Thank you guys for hanging in there with us. We have well, it's weird. It's weird with Don McIver because usually for years he'd been this person introducing me and now I'm introducing him on stage, so that's awkward. And I really owe this man a lot for doing what I do today, what I get to do today professionally. I call him my fairy slam father. He's gonna come on and talk about the video he's gonna present, which is actually narrated by your current Albuquerque Poet Laureate, Jessica Helen Lopez. And it includes lines from people in this room, from the community of poets who helped to create this video, and Don will tell you more about it. Welcome, Don McIver.
Thank you, Hakeem. Thank you guys for sticking around. I've not been as active as I used to be. I used to be pretty much everywhere all the time. And some of that is I'm older, you know, and some of that is I've gotten to grad school and I'm studying rhetoric. And if you know me, you know that makes perfect sense, okay? So, and one of the things I've been studying lately and I'm really fascinated by is kind of how the virtual world is kind of impacting us in communities. And the conclusion that I'm coming up with is we need to spend a lot more time hanging out with people that don't think exactly like we do. I think we'd be less inclined to do the awful things that we do if we were actually knew our neighbors, you know. So my challenge is to, yeah, it feels great to interact with people online that agree with everything you do and give you the thumbs up, but you're really probably not going to go and kill your neighbor, even if you don't like them, if you know who they are. And so that's kind of my little takeaway that I've learned in the process of kind of seeing how it works is let's bring back, for lack of a better word, civil society. And this to me is civil society. And before I introduce the video, I'll read a pretty quick poem called Appellation. Okay? Say his name. Say you've seen him walking down Central, blending in with college kids who party early and often, and now look at the news stories, social media feeds, and his arrest in Roosevelt Park on a Friday afternoon. Say 15 years ago, you and he were regulars in a dive bar on a regular weeknight, and you danced to a band that a lot of people found fun, an escape, a path that didn't at all look familiar. Say you'd talk on the patios, the bars that hadn't kicked him out, and you never knew his name. Say his name. Say you'd see him, run into him at Walgreens, he'd ask you to buy him beer, hand you cash, he'd lost his license and knew you as a familiar, friendly face. Say you turned away and passed off the request, mumbling as you walked by. He seemed a little bit lost and you felt it just wasn't right. like drinking wasn't also a way that you passed time. Say you talked to your wife on what, if anything, you could do. She worked in mental health, didn't have a quick fix, but asked, did he smell? No. Did his clothes look particularly ratty? Not any more than usual. Did you acknowledge that you knew him? Sort of. Say you'd seen him on Central by the university and you knew he was falling down. You could see it but didn't know what else to do. You'd bob your head in acknowledgement as he walked by, say his name, and read the article of his arrest and decent exposure to children in a park. He'd been wandering around the park and finally the police closed in after someone took a photo. Say he's more than a felon, a criminal, mentally ill. Say we don't know how to help sometimes and sometimes we're just afraid. Say, how else was his story going to end? Say his name. Say his name. Say his name. Okay, so a couple years ago, I was watching some videos and I stumbled across a short video called Breathless about Denver. Written by a poet named Ken Arkine and read by Theo Wilson Luciferi. So it's these two Denver poets that I knew, and it was a great video. And and it celebrated all the things about Denver. Of course, they had a lot bigger budget. And I said, we should do that for Albuquerque, but really the only way anything really happens in Albuquerque, in my opinion, is it has to happen by collaboration. Because none of us have any money. You know, we just have to just keep throwing people into it and eventually things happen, right? That's kind of how Albuquerque happens. And so I started talking to Jessica and I told her this idea, what do I want to do? So we put out a call to poets to send their lines about Albuquerque, send their poems about Albuquerque. So we got that. And then we sent out the video part, which we're still really not finished with because we're trying to go back and redo that part. And you'll probably see why in a couple of weird cases if you guys are familiar with Santa Fe. There's actually some pictures that we thought about Albuquerque, but when we realized, somebody said, you know, that's not Albuquerque. You know, and they're all provincial like that. And I'm like, come on, it's only an hour away, come on. So anyway, we're redoing the video part, but then we did really like the audio part. And the poem was, like I said, written collaboratively. It was voiced by Jessica Helen Lopez, the Poet Laureate of Albuquerque. And those of you who are wondering, her term expires in April, so we're gonna be putting the application out again. So if you guys wanna don that very, very overworked hat, you are welcome to apply. I'll let this video speak for the rest of it and hope that you guys appreciate it. And like I said, it's kind of a work in progress, so we're still kind of dabbling with it as much as we can in our busy schedules. So.
Central Avenue's stiletto heels click against concrete dreams. El Rio Grande sings ranchera verses, calling time in a different direction. When Burque was fresh like tortillas, warm as atole, green as chile before it is roasted. When 4th Street Varela's homies brawled and brothers protected one another. Familia es Burque. On sunny summer days in Old Town, Burque es más de una calle entre dos mundos. Burque is fierce. Burque. When it rains, people come out smiling. The moon hangs over the sandias as if it is a hot air balloon. Burque. Where we still get lost in that east-west rumble, in the lonely hum of truckers, those soldiers of commerce marching through our periphery. We walk the clay curves of the Rio Grande, the old cattle trails north to Sandia Lakes, stretch our arms and legs wide as the old Rio across the acequia, and follow the bullfrog base south to Isleta's singing swamps. Our eyes retrace the coal of mountain and mesa, rising and falling with each muddy step. Burque. mother. Pausing from tortilla making, green chile roasting, praying by the Virgen Nicho, take me up in your sandia skirts, dyed by the setting sun. This is how we do things in Albuquerque. Under a wide roof of sky that pulls you up to be as tall as 10,000 feet. If the sky ever had the audacity to swallow a city, it would be you, Albuquerque. We love tough as tread tires. We are I love you in all 18 or more languages we speak. Albuquerque, mi barrio, mis ojos. You etch the colors of earth and sky onto our skin, tanned by Chile and time. A sequia slides in Central Avenue cruise, kicking ass on Route 66. We fill the stories inside, and we paint them red with river clay onto sandstone caves. Yesterday, I found old pottery shards buried by the freeway and howled in the pit. I cruised a cherry red runfla down Central Avenue beneath a blanket of salt-studded stars past the Ouray, Launchpad, Sunshine, and Blackbird Bouvet. Then down Gold Street, way past Bert's Tiki Lounge, and roused the slumbering ghosts of Beyond Ordinary, the Dingo Bar, the Golden West, and the Atomic Cafe. In defiance of American standards and the American crossroads that bisect the heart, mi corazón, of our beautiful city, we laugh at our heritage. Trickster, you payasa, you named a team after a cartoon, surrounded nuclear weapons with a fence. Albuquerque. Every March, fields of maíz, pintos, and squash open their mouths at acequia gates, drink from Rio Grande streams carved by ancient hands in the darkening of dirt, a milagro. In the gurgling, a roll call, Alameda, Los Ranchos, Duranes, Old Town, Atrisco, Presente, where Las Madrecitas de Barelas keep rising. Lighting fires in cold casitas, rolling tortillas, ignoring aches, pains glowing with love. Knowing their families are fed before going to work, domestic workers singing their way to the bus stop downtown Purque, wearing colorful bandanas, red lipstick, ugly white shoes, rising on fumes of city buses, daring to dream. Albuquerque is a patchwork, the gentle stitching of cultures and traditions, a montage of valleys and mountains over a face marked by the ever-present burn of too much sun. Purque, the poetry of protesters in the streets, breathing beneath the undulating tides of people, moving, dancing, praying, beating on drums, loving, hoping, living.
Selves, all of you were, whoa, clap for yourselves. Many of the poets that were listed there in this room or have been here tonight. As we arrive at the end of our program, we want to say thank you to you for hanging in there on a Thursday night, a school night, like last school night of 2015 for some of you. Any of you young people still out there, right? I only know that because I have a young person. And then I want to thank, wait, let me get it right, Mark, because we're making Mark work overtime because he was supposed to be done at 9. Thank you for keeping the lights on for us, Mark. Thank you, Richard, for the fabulous projections. And, you know, he's a music man, he's a blues man. Some of you are hoping to hear him tonight. I'll talk more about that in a second. A couple things have changed. But, Richard, can you cue me up the ways that we can help the Garcia family and the Webster family? So this, in doing my homework for the night, because I try to be an informed host, if there's one thing Don McIver taught me, is do your homework before you get on stage so you don't look like an idiot. So I I probably still look like an idiot, but I did do my homework. And this article I came across is actually an event that's happening Tuesday at West Mesa High School. So I encourage you who are on the interwebs and social media to share the word. All the proceeds of the concert that are going to be collected are for the Garcia family. In the article, it says 6 members of the Garcia family will be there. It's being hosted by, if I'm not mistaken, Jimmy Carter Middle School, but it's going to be at West Mesa High School on Tuesday night. And so if you want to find out more about that, Bill had the foresight to have sign-up sheets for this event out back. You leave us your email, and I'll make sure that before Monday that I shoot that out to everybody. Say, hey, remember that concert is happening. I think they're asking for cash donations or donations of food or canned goods as well. And then the other thing we have is actually at change.org. They would like to name a police substation after Officer Daniel Webster. And this petition is something that's going to be delivered to the mayor and city council if it can reach 1,000 signatures, and it's only 27 short. There's 27 of us here that have smartphones that could do it right now, right? And so we can actually help make that a reality for Officer Webster's legacy of service and for his family. And so those are 2 other ways besides checking in with Mama Kazi and seeing what you can do to help people that are still with us, right? Help people while they're still in this realm is another way to kind of make your community better, safer, happier, and hope moving forward. So thank you for bringing those for me tonight, Richard, and having a way to go to the people who are like, what are you gonna do with poetry? And we'd be like, we did stuff, yeah. And tonight we had intended to convene for those who wanted a little later evening to do the other part of Awake, which is the libations and the party. It's the going home celebration part, the repass, as some of us know it in that Protestant part of the church. We actually ran into some organizational snafus. Draft Station apparently has a private party tonight and didn't want us there. And so O'Neill's in Nob Hill has graciously accepted to receive us. So if you want to follow us over there afterwards, I'm gonna work with Richard because he's working right now to see how many, if we can move the Los Usual Suspects appearance over there. We're working on it on the interwebs right now. Daniel Snow, who is also scheduled to perform there, who's a great, amazing singer-songwriter and friend of mine, is there now, saying that they're expecting a group of 50. But they don't know if they're going to have they're going to let us set up sound. So that's news to Bill and Richard. I'm working on it. But that's so you guys are hooked up and kind of in the know. But we have music here, and some of you came tonight especially to see Mr. Issa Malouf. You may know him from the work he does with Rahim Ahaj. Yes, did I have that right? Yes, okay, thank you. And so I'm gonna have Issa come out and show you why he's amazing. And then we're gonna come back and say our goodbyes. And then Issa is gonna play while we kind of mingle and mill out, but we do so expeditiously because Mark wants to go home. So with that, I bring you Issa Malouf. So I'm the only thing standing between you and some more Issa Malouf, so I'm gonna make it short. I wanna thank Mike Swick for recording for us this evening. Thank you, Mike. I want us to do one kind of mantra in the air before we go to kind of close the space, and then we're gonna have Issa kind of serenade us as we depart. So whatever word means peace to you, it could be shalom, it could be salam, it could be peace. Or it could be namaste, or it could be amen, or it could be whatever you want to do. But what do you want to give, right, to our ancestors that some of the people that we've talked about this evening have gone on to join their ranks? And so on the count of three, say whatever you have to say, call the name of someone that we lost, and then just fill that space with hope for moving forward, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Peace. Thank you very much. Issa Malouf.